So if you can buy property in a place, you can shop for zoning. Dancing Rabbit did it. The founders of Earth Haven shopped for zoning. But it means you have to have people who can make a living even way out in the country. And they want to live way out in the country. Do they want to? They don't want to leave maybe where they live.
Right.
Maybe they live in paradise, also known as California. Redwood trees, beaches, Yosemite, culture. And they think, well, why should I go somewhere else? Well, catch-22. The other thing to do is to buy property, put an option on it so that you don't actually buy it, you're just taking it off the market for a while, and that option money you will probably lose. See this tall fellow right here? He's a specialist in this. He's a realtor, and he does this for people in intentional communities.
Okay.
If you don't know him already, this is Yona. Okay, so then, if the zoning variance that you apply for, which is quite expensive and requires lots and lots of stuff that you do, going to public hearings, having neighbors say they do or don't want you to have that zoning variance. If you get it, then you buy the property. If you don't, you lose the option money if that was the negotiation and you don't get it. Take two. You do what you want illegally.
Oh.
You didn't hear it from me. And then you run the risk that you can't really do the public events and public education and tours and workshops that you wanted to do there. But if you want to go all, somewhere and live a quiet, simple life, then you have to live in fear that some neighbor of yours will be offended by something that you do. Because it's neighbors who have everything to do with whether the zoning guys come up. You know the men in black? Yeah, well, they come in suits, they're wearing black suits, and they have like one of those things in their ear, and they have a clipboard. Hello, ma'am. Come from the government. Well, it's not quite like that, but it's more like that in California, and I'm from California, so I was used to like the fear of zoning folks and the fear of building inspectors. And then I got into Colorado, where the building inspector and the zoning guys would be somebody's cousin's, uncle's, brother's, brother-in-law, next-door neighbor, and they'd say, like, well, you're new to Colorado, huh? So, like, what you gonna build? They have kind of an accent over there. Then I moved even farther away from California into like the hinterlands of the country that I didn't think actually really existed, but now I'm in Appalachia, southern Appalachia. And so the building inspectors and the zoning people, well, we have no zoning, but the building inspectors said, well, you hippies here in the mountains are going to do something kind of interesting. Why don't you build you one of them straw bales? I always wanted to see one of them straw bales. You got straw bales? You gonna build straw bales here? And I thought, I've gone to heaven. Yeah, and we have straw bales there, and an earth shed, cob, you name it, we got it. So we shop for a place with no zoning.
Okay.
But the front end of our county, the front end of our property is in a county that does have zoning.
Okay.
But the back end doesn't. And the back end is, like the iceberg under the water. It's where we have everything. So the front end has services, not fire service, because we're the volunteer fire, but it has like sheriff and ambulance and stuff. So we have the best of both worlds. It's the luck of location.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? Okay. So what we're doing, folks, is we're talking about the fascinating subject of zoning until we can get started on this to see who's going to be here. Yona, I've been told people might come here from the circle of folks who are getting told what's happening where.
They just finished, so...
So we should start?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Sure. Man.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I'll tell you what this talks about. It's a starting place for us to explore things that you might be interested in regarding community. But it's a cool starting place because it shows some things that I found are kind of universal in all the communities that I go to. I have visited more than 140 around the world now, and in Russia even, and Asia, and Latin America, and all over Europe, and all over North America. And I thought that in other countries and in other cultures it would be different. Wouldn't you think? Wouldn't you think it wouldn't be like we do here in North America? But the same problems come up, the same issues come up, the same kinds of things that resolve issues come up. And so, whoops, I'm having an eyeball problem. Give me a minute. Anybody have an eye patch?
I have some eye drops that might take me a minute.
I'm kind of kidding. I think I'm okay. All right, so what I found is that there's these basic things that are so helpful to know. People who live in a community know this already, and then they recognize it when I do this thing, but it's really helpful to have names, and it's really helpful to have this way of looking at it. So, without further ado, the three aspects. So, here is one of the three, and here's another one, and here's another one, and this here is a secret thing that I will tell you about later. And this is the basis for all of them, the foundation, which we'll get to last. So actually, folks, this is really the four aspects of healthy, thriving community. So I'm going to start with the second one and go to the third one and tell you the first one last, and then tell you the underlying one, in my opinion. Ready? Okay, I call this one community glue. And that's kind of a phrase that means the shared enjoyable activities that we have. Oh, hello! You know this part.
Oh, yeah, I can't get enough.
The shared enjoyable activities that we have, which allows us to feel that wonderful feeling of connection to others, feeling of trust, and a feeling of gratitude towards those other people that we're having those shared enjoyable activities with. So I'm going to write that here. Shared enjoyable activities. And so when we have shared enjoyable activities, potluck meals, work parties, cleaning up in the kitchen afterwards, singing and dancing. Can anybody suggest some others?
Gardening.
Yeah.
Gardening?
Anything creative.
Yeah, like we could do art projects together. Skit night, movie night, readers theater, doing a mural, dance, music, drumming, dancing, chanting, jamming, poetry, eating. Yeah, a shared meal, absolutely. That's like the most wonderful and often most frequent one. Okay, physical stuff like frisbee and volleyball and ping pong and you name it, you name the game, and games like, you know, board games, Chutes and Ladders, Monopoly, poker, Old Maid, 52 pickup. The things we can do with each other creates these kind of feelings. Now, why do those kind of feelings come there? Well, there's this hormone that a person's body secretes, oxytocin. You've probably heard of it, the pleasure hormone. Strangely enough, when we're doing shared enjoyable activities, this hormone comes into our bloodstream and triggers feelings of trust and gratitude towards the people that we're having the activities with. And when that happens, that triggers more oxytocin, which triggers more trust and gratitude, which triggers more oxytocin. And there we are having a wonderful time. And it feels really good. And we're probably not giving it much thought like, well, I'm producing oxytocin right now. This is considered one of the three things in community. We're just enjoying ourselves, right?
Can I interrupt for just 1 second?
Certainly.
Because I want to make sure everybody gets this. I was serious. I can't get enough. Can everybody hear okay?
Yes.
Because we have another option to drop this wall, but it might get a little stuff here, and we can try to bring a fan in. So I just want to see if you can hear okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah.
So, oh, she's leaving. Okay. She knows this so well. I was going to ask her if she would like to present this next little part. Okay. When we think of community, and we haven't lived in one before, we generally think of this and only this. When I join that community, this is what it's going to be like. If you're laughing, is it because you live in a community? There's other parts that are very important. But I like to call this the immune system of the community because it needs to be healthy and very robust, and so that when we have conflict, which do you think we will? Yes. That we have such a strong immune system, so to speak, that if conflict is like a disease or germs or something going around, we can fight it off. We might get a little sick, but then we're better. Or we might not get sick at all because we are so robust in our immune system. So now I'm going to draw, what the heck am I drawing? What could that possibly be? Well, don't laugh, or laugh if you want to. This is, in my opinion, a thymus gland, which is right here, which is big when you're a child and gets smaller as you're an adult, and makes white blood cells. Now, a lot of other parts of the body make white blood cells, and a lot of other parts are the immune system. If you start to act like that again, like you know you always do, or you start to do that thing we all know that you do, or I do that thing that you just really wish I wouldn't, we can deal with it better because we have all this. Or when the folks over here have this opinion, they're really strong about it. And all of us have this opinion, no, not true. And we have some kind of community thing going on. We're going to do a lot better because we have this. Does that make sense? You probably know that from love relationships, friendships, family relationships. So there's another analogy I like to use, which is a bank account. So I'm going to draw sort of a generic little bank building here and say that when we have money in the bank, in our bank account, if we suddenly have to withdraw a lot, or we have a sudden expense, or we have a sudden need to deal with some financial thing, and we have to take some out, well, there's some left, because we had so much. We have abundance in that bank account. So I'm going to make an analogy here. It's probably pretty obvious that conflict and difficulty can be like taking money out of the bank. But because we have so much and we keep pouring it back in all the time, we're going to be fine. So what kind of challenges can affect our community glue and lower it? Challenges from within. When we have conflicts, when we find out that we didn't make sure we all joined for the same reason, and some of us have this reason and some have that reason, and now we're trying to apportion our money, our labor, or our resources, and we aren't on the same page about that. So we have fights. Why? Because we over here, we know exactly what this community is for, right? And over here, no, we know that it's really for this. And these two viewpoints fight to the death, as it were, in our meetings because we didn't take care of that at the beginning. That's the kind of thing that can happen, internal things. Or interpersonal stuff, somebody behaving in certain ways that we don't like. The other kind of thing is from the outside. From the outside. Oh my God, we got caught in my community with illegal water systems, and the Department of Water Quality did not want us to continue serving water to the public, whom they called the unsuspecting public. We could drink it, but not the unsuspecting public, because they didn't suspect it. So we had to dig a deep water well, we had to do all kinds of stuff, cost us lots of money, we couldn't have any visitors for a couple of years unless they brought their own water and we didn't feed them, and there was all these things that happened, and we had a lot of stress because we had to deal with how we hadn't done the right thing in the first place. A lot of other outside stresses have come to my community, and this happens when the community is not well planned in the beginning, which unfortunately the one I joined was not. I mean, it was and it wasn't, People who start communities often don't know how. They've never done it before. It's not a common thing in American culture. We're going against the grain of American culture. Because you know what we're supposed to do, right? We're supposed to live with our nuclear family in our house in the suburbs or our apartment in the city and go consume lots of stuff at the mall and buy a lot of things, and that's how we have a happy life. We're supposed to watch simulated relationships on the tube instead of actually having them. we're supposed to spend a whole lot of money. A pause for love. And spend it on stuff. And there's no zoning regulations that really supports what we're doing. There's no legal entities that are specifically for what we're doing, so we have to put it together and make it up. And our friends and our family think we're cuckoo, that we want to do such a thing. And they say, why do you want to join a hippie commie cult? And we have to explain to them about, shared resources and a social environment that is vibrant and loving and trusting and good, except for all those conflicts. And we have to try to explain this, and it's really hard to explain this to people who are in mainstream culture. By the way, the more they are aspiring to reach up to the imagined American dream, like their parents arrived here from a different other country some time ago, and they're going, well, we just want to be Americans and do the American dream thing. Well, the harder it is for those parents to understand why in the world their kid would like to live in a paradise place like Emerald Village, for example. Okay, so that's a little bit about community glue. Have you had experiences with this kind of thing? Anybody? Yeah? Want to say anything about it?
Oh, about shared enjoyable activities?
Well, or that you've just seen the system I'm describing here, the circular process of a lot of glue.
Well, yeah, I could see it in all the communities I'm a part of that, there's the thing that keeps me coming back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Things like simply, me, my brother, and my father all enjoy football, and that's the thing that we get together for. Or I have a group of friends that we all, enjoy eating healthy vegan food, and so we all get together and we eat together. So I see that in lots of communities.
Yeah. Anybody resonate with that?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Marriage, too.
Yeah. God willing. Yes. Okay. Anybody else want to comment on this? Has anybody been in an experience where you had community glue and then you didn't? Or you didn't make enough and then things went south and then you thought, oh damn. Really? Sorry to hear that.
Well, it wasn't a community. It was with a new business development, and so we were so work all the time that when conflicts would arise, we just, slowly, we just couldn't stand each other, and we were all burnt out and exhausted, and we wanted to do anything but be and work. So we each ended up having to go our separate ways.
That sounds like a perfect description of the thing that I'm hoping to help us not have happen, but that happens in communities too. Mm-hmm. Okay, well let's go to the third one, which I'm going to do next. I call this good process and communication skills, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. Well, we need to have this, just like we need to have this, in my unhumble, opinionated opinion. And the reason that we do is because of the fact that so many conflicts or other things that need to be handled with good communication could come up. So by communication skills, what I mean is how we talk to each other, one-on-one, when we meet in the garden, when we meet on the path, when we go over to somebody's house, in small groups and teams and committees, in meetings, in business meetings. How do we talk to each other? Do we talk in the way that we were taught to talk in our family of origin or mainstream culture, or by the typical sarcastic and or put down ways that we learn from the media in Western culture in North America and real specifically in the U.S.? Well, we would tend to do that until we knew that it is not a good idea at all to say anything in a community unless it's either kind of neutral or it builds connection. Because we're eroding community glue every time we open our mouth and say or do something that could be hurtful to other people. And it is so easy to say or do something that could be hurtful to other people without realizing it, because we're just doing our habitual patterns. So I wonder if you would do me the favor of saying, hey, Diana.
Hey, Diana.
What? Let's see, has anybody ever done that in their whole life? in this universe or incarnation or any other? Yeah, well, you know, there's stuff people do, and they're not thinking, am I building community or at least keeping it neutral? Not neutral meaning not eroding our goodwill. So this is the bank of goodwill. This is the immune system of goodwill, white blood cells. And every time somebody does or says something like that, down it goes between you and I, and then it kind of has a meme that goes through the group because we get used to that unkind communication. So, in my community, there are 3 people who habitually, from their families of origin and from the American culture, which never taught them different or tried to teach them different, but it kind of didn't work, do things that can be really hurtful to other people. And so I'm going to show you something really quick here. Those people are in a meeting, and so I'll make little circles that stand for people sitting in a circle in a meeting. Here's the facilitator, you know, here's the whiteboard, and there's the proposals and so on. And this person might say some things that don't feel so good to other people, and this person might have emanations, vibrations, and things they say which, you know, aren't great. And this person does this thing too. I'll make a lightning bolt. Hey, where's Michael Ravenwood? It's a lightning bolt. Did you have a comment? Oh, okay. So you might think that these folks are the cause of the ill will and vibes in this meeting. Well, wait. Yeah, I didn't mean for the facilitator to be the person doing that. So I'm gonna make an arrow that this is actually the facilitator. Okay. So the point I'm making is, does it seem reasonable to assume these folks who said that stuff are the cause of the creepy feelings in this meeting? I see a no. What would you say instead?
It could be that they are voicing the concerns of other people in the group that aren't necessarily as vocal, or could be a whole group.
I understand about voicing concerns and voicing the concerns of others, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, you shithead. Or, excuse my bad language, but I was doing a little guerrilla theater. It's okay.
Yeah.
You didn't believe me. Yeah. It's like, will you get off? Will you stop about that thing you're always talking about? I'm really tired of hearing that. Have you ever been in a meeting where this kind of energy was there? Okay. So here's Euclid, that ancient Greek fellow who invented geometry. And here are these 3 folks who I'm going to put on one side of the algebraic formula. Algebra? What? And here is everybody else. Hello? I'm not saying a word. This person does that. This person sends lightning bolts. People are holding their solar plexus. Now I'm exaggerating. I'm exaggerating to make a point, right? Because it may not be that bad. It may be not that bad. But the point is, the fact that these people don't say, hey, wait a minute, please don't talk like that to her, equals the vibes in the room. These people are as responsible as these, in my opinion. Do you know what I'm saying? And so why would some of these nice folks, here's some things I've heard about when I ask him, so why don't you speak up? Well, he'll just call me, he'll just say that to me. I don't want to be targeted. I come from a family where I was often treated badly, and I just don't have the ability to speak up when somebody is mean, because I'll just get like re-triggered and stuff. Well, it won't do any good. He's just an asshole. There's nothing you can do with an asshole. Oh, you need some NBC training, buddy. Okay, so there's all kinds of reasons that these people won't speak up. Here's one that says, well, you know, we used to try, and we've tried like 6 or 7 or maybe 43 times, and it hasn't done any good, so I just figure, well, that's just the way he is. Is any of this familiar to any of you? A little bit? I'm exaggerating how bad these people are to kind of make a point, right? But even their subtle stuff. Okay, so let's go back over here. How we communicate is hugely important in the well-being of a community. It builds community glue to communicate well. It erodes community glue to communicate in ways that don't build connection. So what do I mean by process? Process skills. Process means when we are in a circle talking to one another about something. We might be having a storytelling evening where each of us is telling really short little anecdotes about something that was really scary or really wonderful and joyous in our life so that we can get to know each other better on an emotional level. So when this person is sharing something deeply personal and important about their life, this person is creating an emotional connection with all these people who are listening. But not only that, they're creating an emotional connection with each other because they're sharing the experience of hearing this thing that is moving. And you know about mirror cells in your brain, right? You've got cells that somehow have superpowers, and they know what's going on in your brain because they mirror it. So you're thinking this, or you're thinking that, or you're feeling this or that, and so am I. And I don't know how it happened because, there's like 10 feet between us, but somehow there's this thing going on. I believe scientists know how that works. I don't know how it works, but I know it exists. So what we need to do is to help each other have a feeling of bonding and connection by meetings we have in circles. We could also be having a mediation to heal a conflict. We could also be having just talking about what's deeply important to us because we have a big issue that we have to deal with. And so we want to not make decisions or make a proposal. We just want to hear from each person, how does this affect you on a heart level? What do you feel? What do you care about? What are your thoughts about this? How does this do? And if we do this over and over in rounds, hey Lauren, in rounds, one at a time, it works so much better than raising hands. Because you know what happens when people raise hands and the facilitator calls. The mouthy ones get the airtime, the assertive, aggressive ones get the airtime, and the people who might be shyer, new, younger, older, women, people of color, or introverts, way on the I side of the scale, might not want to speak up in a group that's so big. But when we do like this, oh my God, it's so very equivalent. It feels so good. And after we've heard from everybody, I'm going to pretend that everybody in this place is in our circle, although I do see all of you. If we go around and we hear what each of us feels and thinks and our thoughts about the issue, this. And then after we've done that, we do it again. Well, we've deepened our understanding because we have the benefit of the thoughts and feelings of everybody. So we go around the second time, there's a deeper understanding and there's more that we can draw from. And then we go around a third time. It's a wonderful way to learn what we feel and think about some issue. Rounds, as compared to calling on. Okay, so another way we can use this is to have a good time doing something that we don't usually do, like some kind of process, like ZEG Forum, which is a connecting and healing empathetic process, or something like that. Anyway, that's what I mean by process. Okay, I used to say, well, there's all these things you can do in community to increase your communication skill, increase your empathy and your connection, and heal conflicts. But now there's only two things I recommend, two and only two. These two and only two. Why? Because they're the very best things I've ever found on the whole planet so far. If I find anything better, I'll say so. But the first one, you know so well, nonviolent communication. I'll bet you everybody in here knows what that is. Yeah? Show of hands, you've heard of it, you know about it, you use it, you're a trainer of it. Okay. Anybody not hear of it? Because I can tell you about it or send you a handout after if you want. Okay. Was that your hand? Oh, okay. You're just doing that. Okay, the other one is restorative circles. Restorative circles. And boy, does it ever restore. Has anybody heard of restorative circles? Show of hands? Good. Okay, I suppose that means everybody else maybe hasn't. Got started in Brazil in the mid-1990s, a conflict resolution created by people in gangs in the favelas of Rio de Janeiro. Not created by them, initiated by them, but created by them with a British guy named Dominic Barter, who was living in Brazil because he fell in love with a beautiful Brazilian lady. And he thought, why isn't anybody who lives here in Brazil, the middle class folks, the wealthy folks, trying to help the situation in the favelas where 60,000 people in favelas and all the different urban areas of Rio are killed every year on purpose or by stray bullets, but usually like in wars or retributions. And their families get killed too, inadvertently, by stray bullets. But in addition, in Rio, for example, one cop is killed every week on the average because of the violence. So this guy, a white guy from England, kind of short and skinny, walks to the favela that's nearest to him and walks in there and starts to talk to the kids. He's learned Portuguese and he wants to find out what they think and feel about life. He gets to know them, he finds out how they can feel connected to him and him to them, and then they introduce him slowly but surely to their parents, and then he finds out what they want. What they want is their children to be safe. Let's say that you are in a business dealing drugs because that's the way you can get money to help your family, and you're exceptionally poor and you're in an urban area and there's rats everywhere, and there are. Why are you doing drugs and dealing drugs? It's an income source. You can't get a job, and you maybe can, but the money is so little you can't do much with it. So there's this horrible economic system. You know how systems are. They like perpetuate themselves, and you don't know where to put your finger on the many parts that perpetuate it. So he's finding out from the kids and then the parents, and together they created this method of conflict resolution, which is so effective it could make you cry. So they started healing up rifts and wars and heartbreaking hatreds and vendettas between gangs. It worked so extremely well that people in the court systems in some of the cities in Brazil and some public schools and private schools in some cities in Brazil began to adopt it. And once they adopted it, it got good press, and there it is on Brazilian TV, and there's a beautiful Brazilian anchor woman telling you, and if you watch it on YouTube, you can hear her say, círculos de restaurativos, and you know that's what she's talking about. Or maybe she says, restaurativão, because it says now in Brazil. Anyway, I love to listen to other languages and see if I can get it, And so, it's fabulous. Now it's in 25 countries in the world. This fellow, Dominic Barter, travels the world. He's quite well known in these circles, teaching people how to do it. There's trainers all over the place. There's a trainer in Portland named Carl Steyer. He will come here and teach it to you. And if you say, hey, Diana, send me his email, I will. My email address is diana@ic.org, and I'll write this here later. Okay, these are the two things I recommend now, NVC and restorative circles, because I think a group couldn't do better with each of these. Comments?
We use the blueprint of we.
I'm familiar with the blueprint of we. What are you asking? Do I know about it?
Well, you're asking for comments. It feels like it's kind of in between these two, in that it's a tool that helps groups who are working or living together to get to know each other on a very deep level, which creates the
glue.
If you care about people, then you put yourself in their shoes, and then when they make mistakes, you actually are okay with that.
Yeah.
It's the same as if you made the mistake.
Can folks back here hear what this lady's saying? I'll repeat it for you. The blueprint of we is a method by which you get together with each other person in your group, or with your husband or wife, or with your partner, or with your kids, each one, each an individual, and you make an agreement that's actually written down and goes through a process that you can get, that, like you fill out forms. What about you? here's about me. What about our relationship together? We've known each other, for 53 minutes now, and how did we meet and what's our relationship? How do I like to receive feedback so we each know? What would you like me to not do or say to you because it'll be like, oh, hurtful? What are some of the things and issues in your life that you'd like me to be sensitive to and care about and never talk to you about wearing a pink shirt because, you're wearing a pink shirt today, but I'm just not going to bring it up, and me too. So you put that together, and then you've got a basis for what you do when things go south. And it builds trust to even do it. It builds trust to review it once a year. And it's a wonderful thing to do. It's time consuming, and it's not like either of these two things. I think it's a wonderful additional cool thing to do if the community has time.
In my experience in communities I've been in, it's been a little bit different than what you're describing. I've seen more avoidant behaviors where people are not in conflict, but they are in conflict, but they're avoiding it and pretending or even to themselves saying it's not that big of a deal to me and just kind of pushing it under. And so I guess I've seen that a little more than, I don't see people where, you asshole or something. That's kind of pretty intense. But
Well, I'm exaggerating to kind of get your attention and entertain you.
yeah, just like looking at the other paradigm, I guess, because it could go either way, I guess.
Well, I think that both happens.
Yeah.
And these folks are all avoiding, which is why they're not speaking up. They might have tried once, but now they're avoiding. Then there's the folks in the community who just don't want to talk to each other. Too much hurt has happened in the past. There's a lot to say about that. I do whole workshops on this kind of stuff. I do 4 different workshops, but I always do this thing at the beginning of every one of them because this is the coolest thing I know. That's a quick little bite about what is so helpful to know in community. Any more
Well,
comments?
and one more thing to add to that is, with the communication skills,
Mhm.
I actually think an important thing to add to that is repair skills, because I noticed that some people have a hard time knowing how to seek repair, and I think that's, just something to add to communication skills is like
Yeah.
the ability to repair really goes a long way.
I completely agree, and it's built into this.
Yeah.
What Restorative Circles has built into it is how to repair relationships when things have been a difficulty and how to restore them, how to do one or the other or both, and it's all voluntary. There's so much to say about this, but I won't because we're going to go on to this one. But I want to know if anybody else has a comment. You, sir? Anything about this? Anybody? Anybody in the back there? Okay, on we go. Why did I leave this one for last? Well, some people know all about this, and they know about it a lot, and they're really good at it, and they think it's like the main and only thing in community. Other people don't know anything about this, and they're kind of surprised and they don't much like hearing it. So what I call this is effective project management. Can everybody see this? Management. Management? What the heck? We're a community, not some damn corporation raping and pillaging the world. Why do we need damn management? They know that's what Dow Chemical has, management. We don't want some damn management. Well, actually, we need management. Why? Because we have an ongoing project. What do you mean? Well, we own property together and possibly some shared things like a tractor or something. And we have to purchase, repair, maintain, make payments on, have insurance about, pay property taxes, think about all kinds of issues regarding running a place like this. So let's take Emerald Village. It sprang full grown from the head of Zeus. Nobody did anything.
I'm Zeus.
Are there some Zeuses in here? Let's see. I see 3 founders of this community, and there many more, and a long-term resident. Okay, so yeah, my community too. Nobody did a thing. It just went and manifested. Okay, so gosh, there's loads to do, and they're ongoing. Now, who knows this? Well, some people know this, but other people don't know it. Why? It's not because there's anything wrong with them. It's not because they're bad people. It's because their life experiences has not taken them to the place where they would have to know about project management. They might be a musician or an artist or a visionary or a mystic or a poet or a person who is an environmental activist and is doing all kinds of activism stuff. And, or maybe they're, you know, a stay-at-home mom or dad, or maybe they're deeply involved in children and education. And why would they necessarily know about this? Shoot, I don't know about, I mean, I know about this now because of all the research I did about how communities succeed, but before, I didn't know and I didn't want to know. I am a card-carrying hippie from the 60s, and I don't want no stinking project management. However, it turns out it's really important, and now I do want it, and it isn't stinking. So, who here knows what the heck I'm talking about? Project management. Good. Good. Excellent. I'm so glad to hear it. So what this means is that we know how to pay our bills. We understand what property insurance is and liability insurance and property taxes, and we understand land payments and mortgages and depreciation and things like that. And we all know how to help people come in and be new members who go through our membership process, our step-by-step, clear, thorough, and I hope rigorous membership process. And because we know it, we manage it. You know, we administer that for the new people who come on and say, "Hi, I'd like to join your community." Do we say, "Oh yeah, come on in. Here's your room. Dinner's at 7." Well, we don't. We have a process. Do we help people stay accountable to the agreements that we have made? Yeah, we do. Do we have agreements that we've made? Yeah. What? Rules? Hey, we don't want no stinking rules. That's what the Matrix has. That's Babylon, military-industrial complex, Republicans. Oh, no, we need agreements, and we are the ones who make them, and we make them for our own benefit. Okay, so this kind of stuff is needed in project management. Fast forward to another reality here. Here's what I found in communities. Some people know a lot about effective project management. So I'm going to say these people know about it, and these people don't know. So here is a person who knows about project management. I'll give him glasses, you know. And here's some thoughts, you know, big thoughts about, you know, money, depreciation, appreciation, amortization. I don't know what those words mean, but, you know, this person does. This person knows that it's necessary and knows how to do it. So far, so good? You know people like that? Okay, this person here knows that it's needed, but doesn't know how to do it. Nevertheless thinks, oh good, I'm glad this person knows how. This person doesn't know it's needed, but when they find out, they're not glad because they know it's bad. And they want to stop the group from spending time, money, and effort and energy running the management aspect of it. They don't want to think about or give money, time, or energy to bookkeeping or to the other kinds of necessary tasks to run a project. This kind of person will get together some other people and, you know, induce them to say, hey, wait, what is that? And this person will get targeted as some kind of bean counter matrix person. Have you ever seen that? You have? Show of hands, anybody who's seen that? It's so damaging. This person only wants to save their community from the potential downsides that can happen from not managing it. Kind of like when you have a car and you never put oil in it. You don't get a checkup. You don't make sure the tires are rotated and filled up correctly. When you get the treads so bad you can see the threads in the treads, you know, pieces of the, oh my God, a bug. Pieces of the car, pieces of the tire like coming off. You keep driving it. That's like you're not doing car maintenance. Why? Because you're not thinking how to manage that thing. And then there's your house, the roof, the foundation, all that stuff. So communities need to be managed as well. You don't, I have to fix the bug in my eye.
I think there's a mirror behind you.
Well, what I'll do is I'll just absorb the protoplasm. Okay, so the deal here is that we need to support people who know this, and we need to learn it. Comments or questions about this? Okay, so what's in the middle here? My thing that I think is the most significant for all of these. But first I want to say, when we have lots of community glue, we don't have to do this so much. We can do it less. Why? Because we don't need it so much. We don't have to keep healing conflicts because we have less come up. Why? Because we're just so rich in our immune system and rolling in money, so to speak. Our goodwill is just so high. When we're doing this well, things are going along smoothly. Having our community run so well that we don't have to think about big problems because they're being dealt with before they happen, that itself creates community glue. When we have really effective project management, that itself reduces the need to talk so damn carefully all the time and to have so many mediations. However, when we don't do this well, oh my God, do we have conflict. And oh my God, do we get eroded in our community glue. And not only that, when we have conflicts as bad as the ones my community has had, from the terrible not doing good legal and financial planning in the get-go, because you know, when you're a hippie and you're countercultural, you know that the laws of the municipality, the county, and the state, and the federal government, and the health department, and so on, that other people say that you are embedded in and you are subject to, we know that they don't apply to us. Because we're spiritually and morally superior to Babylon and the Matrix. So we don't need to do them. So move forward 15, 20 years, and all of a sudden we get caught. Horrible, difficult things. Lots and lots of awful need to revise this and actually learn what the heck do these words mean and do it right. And then this goes all to hell. Shoot, I don't even want to go to that potluck. I don't even want to see you clowns. Leave me alone. I'm going under the bed and I'm not coming out. And so these things are like those concertina instruments, you know, like when you go like this, they go, like if each one of these is like a thing that can get bigger and littler, the more two of them are big, the less the, you know, some communities have a whole lot of this and some of this and none of this. Some communities have a whole lot of this, but they never heard of this. Do you know what I'm talking about? Have you seen this kind of thing? So here's what I think. Shoot, let's have all three. Let's have all three in abundance, which is basically my point. But before making the last point, I should say, what the heck is this? This is the thing in the middle, and I wonder if you would do me the favor of making a drum roll. Let's see. Does anybody have their feet on the ground? Governance and decision making. That's what's in the middle here. How do we govern ourselves? Did I say government? No, that's a noun. Governance, the ongoing verb action of governing ourselves and our decision-making method. Is decision-making governance? No, it's a piece of it. Is governance entirely and only decision-making? No, it's more. Governance is what things do we decide about? How do we figure out how to do ongoing management, ongoing administration? What are our methods? What are our processes? This is the need for it. This is the how we do it. And then the decision making is how we make the decisions. What do we make decisions about? Well, how we apportion our time and our labor. So I'm making some drops of sweat here, so you know that I mean labor. How do we apportion our money? What do we spend it on? How do we put some here and some there and save this for that later? Okay, so how do we make those decisions? Our decision-making method. To my mind, this is how this gets effected. So now I'm going to say that you have to have governance to make this happen. So I'm making these little arrows to kind of give you a visual metaphor that this happens through this. Okay, let's say your governance method is slow, lugubrious, boring, conflict-worthy. We have a situation like this. People doing and saying things, complete silence. People don't like to go to meetings. We can't really move anywhere. We're stuck. We have constipation of the community progress. Goes to hell. We need a whole lot of community mediations and circles to restore. And, you know, we're basically falling down here. I've experienced this. Have you ever heard of this in another group or seen it yourself in any group you've been in? It doesn't have to be that way. That's my method here. My message here. So, governance, what do I recommend? Most communities have, you know, business meetings plus committees. And then they have that they make decisions, and quite often it's by consensus. Classic consensus. Anybody can block anything at any time with no recourse. Or one of the modifications, which is we have a recourse. We have things we do when someone blocks. I'm going to assume you know what I mean by consensus. Okay, most use consensus. In my book, Creating a Life Together, which I don't know if you know I wrote this book, but I did. And in chapter 6, I go on and on and on and on and on about how to use consensus and why intentional communities use it. It's so much better than majority rule voting or anything else. Oh my God, do I wish I had a time machine to go back and take that chapter and change it completely. I don't recommend consensus at all. Why? 20 years of life in community, visiting communities all over the world, learning how it actually tends to create difficulties, not because the Quakers weren't good at decision-making design, but because it doesn't tend to fit most communities most of the time. It works great when we all agree, and it does not work great when we don't. So there's two things I recommend. I'll put them up here so you can see them. One is the N, like in the letter N, street consensus method. This is a method developed by an intentional community in Davis, California on N Street, because the founders of Davis ran out of street names, so they used letters of the alphabet. And this is a fabulous, interesting community, which I'll tell you more about if you want me to later. But the point is they have a decision-making method that alters, modifies consensus so much that the group cannot get stuck by being held hostage to someone has different values, lifestyle choices, or a different interpretation of what they're doing there and stops them from doing what they want. That really can't happen because of this wonderful method. If you're interested, I'll send you a handout about how they do it. Yes. So for groups who use consensus, hold on to that, okay? For groups who use consensus, I highly recommend this. I teach consensus. I've been a facilitator of consensus for years and years and a trainer of it for years. Anymore, when somebody asks me, will you come and teach our group consensus, I say only if you'll agree that it's this method. It's exactly the same as consensus people know, but when you get to the decision rule part, which is where you make the decision, it's a little different. If anybody wants to stay in here, if there's still space and the next group isn't coming in, I can explain it after we're done, and we're officially done real quick. The other thing I recommend has a very strange name. I'll put it over here. It's called sociocracy. It comes from the Netherlands in the 1970s. Socio means peers and colleagues. It means governance by peers and colleagues and friends and people who have equivalents. The whole point of it is harmonious organizations. The three values it's based on are equivalence of voice, effectiveness, and transparency. We all know everything. So I teach this now, and I recommend it. It's the best thing I know of for communities in terms of this central thing, governance. So the three things that I recommend for any group to be thriving when they understand and want to have all three of these things is that they have NVC, restorative circles, and sociocracy. So, if you're interested in knowing any more about this, I'd like to show you my website so that you can say, hey, send me a handout on this, send me a handout on that. Here's what I can send you. It's in your starter pack that you're going to get as a PDF coming in your email sometime soon. But if you would like to see anything else I have, this is me, Diana, at ic.org.